What's up, everybody? Welcome back, and today at last we are going to break down Rose Namajunas versus Zhang Weili. I will not be doing a breakdown of Valentina Shevchenko versus Andrade, and to be totally honest, the reason why is because I have not watched enough of Andrade's fights up to this point, and I don't want to rush it and do a poorly done video. I haven't watched enough of Valentina Shevchenko's fights to analyze how much he's adapted over time. And I don't like just throwing things out there and guessing because I like someone's style, because I see him do good work. I've seen Andrade do good work in her fight with Rose, both of her fights with Rose. I saw her overcome adversity in the first fight, and then I saw her start to put pressure on the second fight. I've seen Valentina Shevchenko, do some impressive knockouts, and I like her style. My coach told me I should start watching her style as well, because he says basic striking is what she uses, but she uses it effectively. So we've got Zhang Weili versus Rose Namajunas. Now, in this fight, a lot of people believe that Zhang is going to steamroll Rose, and a lot of people are going for the underdog of Rose Namajunas. And so let's just break it down. I did two previous videos. I did one, how good is Zhang Weili, and the other one is how good is Rose Namajunas, leading up to this, because I knew these two would eventually fight. And we've got some positive criticism in the comments, which I was very glad for. So please comment your thoughts and your feelings. So we're going to discuss, I'm also going to throw in a few predictions. I'm going to predict how I feel Rose could win, how I feel Zhang could win, and then we're going to talk about the mental strength of both fighters, because I believe that is an overlooked thing when you go into a fight. Very often people don't understand the mental aspect of things. A lot of people say, why did Mike Tyson start losing after he lost his first fight? And a lot of people who were there and alive in that era, who were boxing trainers, or people who had trained boxing, said once that aura of invincibility was gone, more people were not afraid to fight him. He said most people who used to fight Tyson were terrified of being locked inside the ring with him before the fight happened. We see that with Francis Ngannou. After he had been defeated previously, he has regained the hype that had people afraid of him. But the hype is not fake. He has authentically got better at stuffing takedowns. He has gotten better at landing punches on his opponents. He's gotten better at feinting. So he's made increases. And that's the thing with Rose Namajunas. We're going to talk about her first. Rose Namajunas had the championship belt at strawweight. She had the championship at strawweight before, and she defended it one time. Both those fights were against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Now, somebody did comment that they felt that Joanna's was stylistically a good matchup for Rose, and that's why she did as well as she did against her. And I do believe there is some truth to that. A lot of people figured that Joanna was a bad matchup for Rose because they figured Joanna had the edge in the stand-up game, and that Rose had the edge in the ground game, but Joanna had very good takedown defense. Joanna is also bigger than Rose Namajunas. She walks around a heavier weight than Rose does. One of the reasons that Rose, I feel, has not moved up in weight is because she's even small for her division when you compare it to the people who cut weight to her division. We're going to talk about that with Zhang later on. Zhang used to fight at 135, and she was cutting to fight at 135. So she's a very big person. Oh, sorry, my bad. I said 135. 132. She had some fights in Japan where she fought at 132 pounds, and I believe she fought at 140 once. But that lets you know how much weight she's cutting to get to 115, if she was cutting to get to 132. I don't know if she was cutting to get to 140. Some people are bad and just will go out there and fight at their natural weight sometimes. So with Rose, what do I feel that she has that can trouble Zhang Weili? And for her, Rose, we know Rose comes out. Rose comes out, she's bouncing on both of her feet. She's got very good footwork. The reason her game improved from what it used to be to where it is now is because Trevor Whitman is her coach. Now, a lot of people may not know this, but Trevor Whitman was a boxer first. He didn't teach MMA, he did boxing. So he's coming in there with a very strong striking background as far as boxing goes. And he improved Rose's footwork. And footwork wins fights. You hear David Christensen from the mixed martial artist who breaks down fights. Go check out his channel. You hear him talk about it all the time. Footwork is what wins fights. My coach told me the number one thing for defense in fighting, regardless of what the combat is, even wrestling, boxing, MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Lethwei, he said the number one defense is footwork. Blocking is second and head movement is last. And he said the reason why is, if you look at it, we just break it down. When you use your footwork, you get completely out of the way of danger. You're stepping out of the way of danger, and you're stepping into a defensive position that's also offensive. That's the point of using your feet. You want to get to the position where you won't get hit, where you can hit the person, and when you do land your punch, you still want to be covered up. That's how you use footwork. When you're blocking, contact is still being made. And even though you're not necessarily being hurt, you're still receiving damage. You know, if you block somebody's punches with your fist, it still bruises up. I hold pads for guys who are bigger than me and they leg kick all the time. And I'm thinking if I was blocking this without the pads, this would be even worse. You know, the bruises would come up much faster, they'd be much bigger. So even when you block, you're still receiving damage. I may block a liver kick with my arm or with my elbow, and my liver may be fine, but my arm, my elbow receive damage. And when I go to throw a punch back with that same arm, that arm now has damage. We saw this in Canelo Alvarez's last fight, where people figured the jab was going to be a problem for him. Well, he knew that too. So he destroyed the man's jabbing arm. His left arm, the guy's left arm, you know, he turned it into an alien. He beat it down. So he didn't have to worry about jabs coming from him. So that's why blocking is second. If you block with your elbows, in some cases, not as much damage may come if you block a punch. Some people have very hard shins, so if they kick properly, they're not kicking wrong, you can actually hurt your elbow still, especially if their shins are just more conditioned. You know, the more you kick things, the more you condition your bones, the stronger they become. So that could be a question of conditioning. But Rose uses her footwork, and with her knockout of Joanna in the first round, the first time she knocked her out, what she landed was, the first time she dropped her with the right, but Joanna got back up to her feet. After that, she caught her with a hook. Now, what she does is, she'll step in to go for an angle change, and she'll usually land her right hand. So, when she was fighting Joanna, she was bouncing back and forth, bouncing back and forth. She stepped in, throws the jab, and she used her jab very good. She'll use her jab to measure and find out where that right hand can land. And then she hit her with the right. Now, that dropped her the first time. The second time she stepped in, she feinted a couple times before throwing it. And then when she stepped in the last time, she stepped in, but as her left leg landed, she threw a hook at the same time. She made it one movement. And that was an elite maneuver. And when people may understand when someone says, what do you mean when we say the elite fighter? When a fighter comes in, they learn the basics. They learn, you know, your jab, your cross, your hook, your lead hook, your uppercut, your rear uppercut. You learn the basics. Your level of eliteness is measured by how well you flow from one position to another or one technique to another. And when you're throwing combinations, your level of eliteness, if you stand there and admire your work, that's a sign to a lot of people that you're not elite. Now, we know people like Roy Jones Jr. and even Joe Calzaghe would often land combinations and they would stare their opponent down. That's because they had already beaten that person. If your opponent's still dangerous, you don't want to do that. Even them, when those fights started, often they would not be showboating in the earlier rounds. I know sometimes Roy did, but when he had someone who was a problem in front of him, he would pick them apart, and then when he had them beaten, usually mentally and not just physically, that's when the showboating would increase. And the reason why is because if you stand there after landing your combination, you're in range to be hit. Now, this is one thing Rose is very good at. She's good at getting inside of the pocket. My coach likes to call it the line of fire. She'll get inside the line of fire, and then she'll get out very quickly with an angle change. And her angle change usually puts her in a better position. Now, in her last fight with Jessica Andrade, I saw her going in a whole lot of different directions. She used to have a habit of going in one direction. Her entire fight with Joanna, she was constantly moving to the left. She was constantly moving to the left side. She did not once step to the right except to move backwards, to reset, only to keep going back to the left. She didn't circle to the right for the majority of that fight intentionally. Every time it was either because Joanna pressured her or because she was stepping backwards. And even then it was slightly in the right direction. For the majority of that fight, she was intentionally moving to the left. More than likely looking for that right hand to land. And she said she's a finisher. She's a finisher. She likes to finish the fight. So what threat does she really have for Zhang? In size and in strength, I believe Zhang has the edge. She's a bigger fighter. She's stronger. Now, what edge does that give her? If you're stronger in the clinch, she's going to be more dangerous. The person with greater strength can be more dangerous in the clinch when they know how to use it. And Zhang has a very good Muay Thai background. We saw her outmuscle Andrade in the clinch, and we know Andrade. We've seen Andrade in the clinch with Rose, and we know who's better there. So she has the edge there, not just in strength, but in technique. If someone has more strength than you, but they have very, very poor technique, you can overcome them inside the clinch because you could be weaker than somebody by 10%. But if your skill is 90% better than theirs, you have the edge 9 out of 10 times. And we saw that even with Rose against Andrade. Andrade is stronger than Rose, and she's bigger than Rose. She's moving up in weight class to fight Valentina. But in the first fight, in the second fight, Andrade made some very good adjustments. But in the first fight, we saw how much of a difference skill can make over size. Yes, I know Rose still lost, but she dominated the first round. She was dominating the second round. People said she was slowing down. Need to go back and watch that fight again, because in the second round, before she got stopped, she had already landed more strikes in the second round than she did in the first round. So no, she was dominating that fight. The threat that she poses for Zhang, I feel, is going to be the way that she can get in and get out, the way she can swim without getting wet. And her step in and her angle changes are very good. Now, like I said, in her last fight with Andrade, she was moving in several directions in the third round. I don't know if she was trying to experiment a bit, fight, trying to try something different. Sometimes fighters will do that. I know when I spar on occasion, if I'm getting really good at doing one thing over and over again, I don't want to keep doing the same thing because my opponent can read it. But also, I want to test different things. Things that I know I'm bad at, I want to test them. And some fighters like to test those under pressure. You know, people say, no one would do that. I'm like, well, you know, most coaches will tell you not to do it. Vasily Lomachenko, Roy Jones Jr., Muhammad Ali, Israel Adesanya, the list goes on of fighters do. But those fighters who I just mentioned all do those things. But coaches will tell you not to do them. So it's an opinion. It changes from person to person. Now, do I believe Rose can win? Yes, I believe she can win by decision or by submission. Why do I feel like she can win by submission? Now, we haven't seen her ground game as much lately, but when she first came into the fight, Rose was known for being a grappling person. Most of her stoppages, most of her fights were stoppages. You know, she hasn't gone the distance that much. And most of her wins were by submission. They weren't by knockout or TKO. So we know she's good on the ground. And the position that Zhang places herself in, they're really open for armbar. And we know that Rose is good at the armbar. Now, I do feel, like I said, the strength is going to come into factor there. But I believe that she can pull it off. Now, the gas tank is a question here. We've seen both women go 5 rounds against Joanna Jędrzejczyk in an opponent. And Joanna, between those two fights, didn't make a whole bunch of changes. I didn't see a whole bunch of changes from the Joanna who fought Rose the second time and the Joanna who fought Zhang. Not a whole lot of changes. Pretty much the same style. Now, the way they match up against them might have nothing to do with the way they fight each other, because it's going to be a different type of fight. Joanna is better at range than Zhang is. She's better at fighting at range. Watch rounds 1 and 2. 1 was pretty close. I think Zhang actually landed more strikes in that round, but I think the control, the tempo of the fight, Joanna had a bit more edge. The second round, Joanna dominated. And, you know, not necessarily like ground and pound dominated, but she controlled the range. Whenever Zhang tried to change levels, she stopped her. Whenever she was fighting at a range and she tried to close distance, she stopped her from closing distance. When she did close distance, she went to grappling because Joanna was getting the better of the tie fighting and better of the clinch fighting on the inside. So Zhang was able to overcome that and change the tempo of the fight from a scoring fight where we're going to touch each other and see who can score to one of power. She said, fine. If I can't outskill you, I'm going to outmuscle you. And then you could look at Joanna after the fight and see that's exactly what Zhang did. She just started to throw bombs at her. And the harder you hit somebody, especially, you know, in the face, you call them to reset. Kudos to Joanna for surviving the bombs, because Zhang was hitting her with some power shots. But from range, I don't really know who has the edge. Rose does not really fight at long range. She doesn't, not against elite strikers. Like I said, most of the time she'll close the space and she'll get you on the ground. In her fight with Michelle Waterson, she didn't fight at range too much. Against Carolina, the fight that she lost, Carolina got a little bit better of her at the range, and Rose closed the distance. She stopped fighting at range. So at range, I don't believe she's better than Joanna is, and I'm not really sure how she compares to Zhang, because Rose didn't really play she doesn't play the range game. She doesn't sit in range. She closes distance, does her damage, and then she gets out. And then when she's out, she'll use her head movement. She'll pull back. She looks for a way where she can close range again. Kind of like Mike Tyson. She doesn't bother playing the game with range. Now, people say, well, she throws jab. I'm like, she does throw her jab, but she doesn't use it so much to score points as she does to set up her right hand and then her step in, where she'll throw combos. And she doesn't throw a whole lot of kicks. And at range, her leg got beat up. Now, here is the big thing that I feel is going to be a problem for Rose. When Rose fights Zhang, Rose, when she does that step in for her angle change, her legs are pretty wide. Now, she's quick, but you can time somebody, and you can lead them onto a punch or a kick. Joanna was throwing a round kick to Rose's leg and she caught her. Now, when you're throwing a round kick, you've got a bigger target because your shin, if you're throwing with your shin, you know, you've got this much to hit with. Zhang doesn't really throw round kicks as much to slow her opponent down. She likes to throw her side kick. And when she throws it, she kind of throws like a step-in side kick. The reason why I feel that's going to be a problem for Rose is because Rose, the speed that she does that angle change with is going to work against her if and when Zhang times it. And if she times it and she hits her in that, that's going to hurt her leg. Now, if that takes her leg out, she'll be a sitting duck. And as far as power goes, I do not see, that's not a position Rose wants to be in. She does not want to compete with Andrade. With Zhang. We saw Zhang compete with Andrade in terms of power, and we saw her dismantle her in 42 seconds. So, the favor is definitely in Zhang to win this fight. She has the edge in power. She doesn't really have the edge in speed. I don't think she has the edge in speed. I think Rose still edges her out in speed. With durability, that's going to be a factor. We saw what Zhang can take from Joanna, but you know, I don't really know how hard Joanna hits. A lot of her big fights have gone the distance. You know, she wasn't known for really stopping people that much. She was known for dominating with superior striking and superior technique and skill, but she's not really known for stopping people. Rose is not really known for stopping people either, and people think that she believes she had one punch knockout power when she beat Joanna. But I'm like, no, because she was ready to go 5 rounds when the time for the rematch came. And then with Andrade, even though there were a few opportunities I felt in the first fight where she might have been able to end it sooner, and again, that's just my opinion. I'm not saying she should have stopped her and that she's a bad fighter. That's just my opinion. But she was taking her time. She was taking her time and just picking her apart bit by bit. Rose really likes to nibble somebody down like a jackhammer, just chipping away before stopping them, usually by submission. But she said she's a finisher. Now, the mental warfare of the game. I feel like I do not believe that Zhang is underestimating Rose. That is a huge problem with a lot of fighters, and people who have never been punched in the face before really underestimate how much mental warfare plays into the fight. If you think your opponent is easy to beat, you're just being mentally lazy. You can put in all the work, and you can put in all the, you can do all the drills, you can go through everything, but you're not thinking of ways, you're not looking, when you think the person's easy to beat, you're not looking at ways that can cause you problems. So when those problems show up in the fight, you're like, I didn't think about this. So you're not mentally prepared, you're not sharp inside your mind. Your body can be ready, but your mind's not ready to go to war. A lot of people are questioning, is Rose mentally tough enough? I know she said some comments. I'm not going to repeat it. I don't like playing with that kind of drama. But because I must speak of it at this moment, I do not think that Rose is necessarily trying to be insulting. But she did say that, she said before a fight with Joanna, the first fight, she said she's an adrenaline junkie. And she said that she likes being under pressure. Now, I know people like this. I met in college. They were straight A students. I just talked to one of my friends recently about this. She's a straight A student. But they always waited to the last minute to do their assignment. One guy's name was Luke, and he was really good at it. He would wait to the last minute to do his assignment. And they need that pressure of knowing you only have exactly 48 hours to get this done. Otherwise, they don't put forth their best. Now, you could say that's a sign of a lack of discipline. You could say whatever. That may be true. But the point is, it still works for them. So if, you know, creating the drama works for Rose to get her mentally sharp, then she's going to be a problem. Now, because when she knows she has something to overcome. If we look at it on paper and we look at it, you know, compared to everybody else, this is a fight where Zhang should just go out there. She should beat Rose worse than Rose beat Andrade, worse than Zhang beat Andrade. She should steamroll her. That's how a lot of people are looking at this. She's bigger. She's stronger. She's on a 21 fight win streak. She only lost her first fight. She's defended her belt against the person who Rose fought. She knocked out the person who knocked out Rose in the second round. She knocked her out in the first round in 42 seconds. So everything is saying she should win. She's the overdog in this case. Rose is coming in as the underdog, and really and truly, when she is the underdog, I believe, for whatever reason, that is mentally, she's better there. She's mentally more sound when she's supposed to lose on paper. And I picked her for the first fight against Joanna. I did not pick that she would win by knockout. I did not. Sorry, I take that back. I did say I think she would. I said it would be a TKO. I think I picked like the third round or the fourth round. That's what I was betting on. She did in the first round. So I feel when there's something for her to overcome, she's more comfortable because, like I said, when you're the one who's supposed to lose, you look for the reasons you can lose and you prepare for them. So she's like, Zhang's more powerful. So how am I going to overcome her strength? She's saying Zhang is dangerous on the ground. How am I going to overcome her being dangerous on the ground? She has all these intangibles that she can lose at, and if she's focused, then that means she's coming with the game plan for each one, and has been. She didn't just start doing this, yesterday when the fight was ready. When they were ready for the fight, she was getting ready to go to war. And that's what you're supposed to be doing as a fighter, and that's what I believe she's been doing. So how do I feel? What are the ways they can win? I said it would happen. Zhang, she could win by submission. She could win by TKO. I think people underrate Rose's chin, but she did start to get pieced up by Andrade in the third round of that fight. She did get the takedown, but she didn't get much done with it, and that really just stopped the storm that was already starting. And Zhang can win by TKO. She can win by submission. She can win by TKO with ground and pound. And like I said, Zhang is very patient. She reminds me a bit of Khabib. When she gets somebody on the ground, she doesn't just start throwing punches. She looks to get in the better position. While she's trying to get to the better position, elbows, nibbling away with punches, till she gets in a good position. She likes to make sure she's really up here. That's where you want to be before she starts throwing the heavier shots of ground and pound. And she'll move with her opponent. A lot of people like to sit still, but she'll move with you and make sure you can't escape. Small things like that. Rose, we do know that she's good with submissions, but does she want to grapple with a Zhang? That is the big question to me, because I see the fight going this way. I see Rose coming out, bouncing back and forth, looking for her entry. I see Zhang. Zhang comes out very bouncy too, bouncing up and down. And she'll start. She kind of slaps her jab out. She doesn't start off throwing it straight. She usually slaps it out a bit. So I see her slapping it out. I see Rose pulling back, trying to read it. And then as one of those jabs comes down, I see Rose stepping in, going for angle change, and throwing that big right. Then after that, she repositions herself. She shakes up a bit, and then she goes in again. Now, after she starts doing that, I believe the next thing is Zhang is going to start throwing out those little leg kicks. Pop, pop. She's going to start throwing out those leg kicks. She's going to start throwing them out. And if she times Rose right with it, and Rose steps on a bad one, that's going to hurt her leg, and that's going to take away some of her mobility. And then when Zhang does that, she comes back with a left hook. Very similar to the way that Rose steps in and throws a left hook. Zhang will stop you in your tracks and then hit you with a left hook while you're right there in front of her. Then after that, Rose will get repositioned. She'll come back up. If she hits her with the left hook, it's going to be on the right side of her face. Her eye might start to go. Eye might start to be covered up, and then, like I said, taking away her left leg. So now she can't see out of this half, and now she can't see out of this half. I do not feel too many jabs are going to get through for Rose on Zhang just because of that kick alone. She had the advantage there, and then when Rose gets in trouble on the stand-up, she goes for the takedown, and I feel that could be a mistake. I have seen Zhang get taken down once against Tecia Torres, and she reversed the takedown very quickly. She used the momentum from the takedown against her and flipped her over. If Zhang gets Rose down on her back and then she puts her inside, similar to a crucifix, I see her winning by ground and pound. It's just that, like I say, it's one of those things where I feel that Zhang should be the one who wins. But then again, like I said, when Rose is doing her best, she says she is her best, and this is the fight. This one's going to decide, who is the queen at strawweight right now, because both of them have already beat Joanna. Both of them have beat her. A lot of people said that Zhang didn't beat her as convincingly. A lot of people said that Joanna, Rose could have won this. Rose should have lost the second fight with Joanna. Both fights were close. I think that Zhang was a little more clearly the winner, though, because, like I said, the first round, if we were just counting strikes, it was even. People said, well, don't count strikes, count power. I'm like, if we count power, it was no question that Zhang won that fight. She landed the harder shot. She did the more damage. You could look at Joanna's face. There's no maybe as to who was hitting harder in that fight. Zhang wears damage pretty well, though, so that can be deceptive. But after that, I see it going to the ground, and when Rose feels her power, I don't see her wanting to go there again. If she survives, I feel that Zhang actually could win the fight by decision. Now, do I feel that's more likely to happen? I do feel that Zhang is more likely to win by TKO if she comes out patiently. Both these fighters need to respect each other. What do I think could happen? I think is less likely to happen. I think that if Zhang is not patient enough, Rose can pull off a submission win, I believe more than likely armbar or arm triangle. Because those are the only things that are really kind of exposed when Zhang goes to the ground. And then, like I said, I haven't seen either one of them go to the ground lately in their fight. I saw Zhang try to take Joanna to the ground, but she wasn't able to, so she had to finish the fight stand up. Rose tried to take Joanna down. I don't remember really recall her trying to take her down in the 3rd or 4th round. I know she went for it in the 5th round and got it, but not much came of it. I know she tried to keep it stand up with Andrade in their rematch until the last round that she took her down. Also, one more thing though. Rose has been practicing flying knees. And we all saw what Jorge did to Ben. I don't think that's very likely to happen just because of the stance that Zhang comes out in. And we don't see Zhang blast for double legs. We don't. She likes to get that overhand lock and then hip and body throw you down. So I think it's very unlikely that Rose can pull off a knockout based upon Zhang going for a double leg takedown with a flying knee. And this is why people are usually scared to make predictions, because they're afraid of being wrong. So like I said, I really want to lean towards Zhang winning. But like I said, if Zhang is impatient, can Rose win by submission? I think that's her most likely way to win. I don't feel that it's likely that she'll knock her out. I think that's less likely. And plus, often if Rose is getting the upper hand with striking anyway, she'll go for a submission. It was with Paige Van Zandt. When she couldn't put her away, she kept trying for submission, so she finally got it in the 5th round. And she could have probably tried hitting a little harder and just finished her with strikes, but she was really going for a submission win. Maybe she said she would win by submission. She felt she had to do it. I don't know. And that's why I said the mental toughness is going to be a factor, but I don't think we have to worry about Rose this time. Because like I said, she's supposed to lose this fight. That's how people are looking at it. And when people are supposed to lose something, I feel, in Rose's case, that is what makes her mentally ready and mentally sharper. Let me know who you guys feel is going to win. I know most people said Zhang's going to win. I know people want Rose to win because she's the underdog. But I think that she's an underdog for good reasons. But both women need to respect each other. If Zhang does not respect Rose at all, she's going to give her trouble. I still think Zhang can overcome that because we saw her overcome trouble with Joanna. And like I said, that was a different fight. But like I said, I feel like Zhang doesn't have anything to worry about from long range. Inside the pocket, you don't have anything to worry about, but it's the angle changes. The footwork of the footwork of Rose, I believe, could be the only thing that can really give her problems. And her best bet of winning, that's most likely for her to win, will be a decision, but she's going to have to be able to go the distance or a very, very late stoppage. A very late stoppage. That's how I feel are the way she could win. Who I think is more likely to win? I agree. I believe it could be Zhang. Most likely to win. I wouldn't want to bet on this one, though, to be honest. Because, like I said, mentally sharp, Rose is still a threat. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think.